A lot of us as women, we are stuck in relationships, friendships, situationships. We know that leaving would serve us best, but there's so many things that are keeping us from actually moving our feet and taking action and leaving. Hey babes, I'm Maya Galore, and you're listening to Into the Next, where we're becoming, rebuilding, and elevating into the next season and best version of ourselves. This is the work no one talks about, so if you're listening, you're meant to be. On this episode, I want to talk about something that a lot of us struggle with, and that is leaving. Leaving situations that do not serve us, people who are keeping us back and holding us back. This is a very big and hard topic to talk about because a lot of us as women, we are stuck in relationships, friendships, situationships. We know that leaving would serve us best, but there's so many things that are keeping us from actually moving our feet and taking action and leaving. And I have had my fair share of experiences of leaving all of the different types of relationships. And I would have to say that it's one of the hardest things that you can do for yourself, but it's one of the best things that you can and will do for yourself and for your future and for your best version. I want you to leave this episode feeling empowered, feeling able, and feeling strong enough to leave that man, situationship, that friendship, that family member, anything or anyone who is not serving you and that does not align with your best version. If they're holding you back, they gotta go. So I have had my fair share of situations that I have exited out of. I'm laughing because my friends know me as the girl who will send you an HR text message. They call it an email, but it's a text message telling you exactly what I think, why I'm leaving, and giving you the piece in a very professional, mature manner. I am known for bouncing when something is no longer serving me. Typically, like when I start talking to men, like within 30 days, I know if this is for me. More recently, let's give it a week. Okay. Like you say something that I know is not aligned, baby, you out the door and you out the door quick. I don't waste no time. However, before the last couple of years, I would give men about a month just to see like who are you, how do you respond to things, how do you move in your life, like just picking up on all of the qualities that I know that I need for myself. And you got about a month, and after that month is up, you gonna get a text message, because after a month, do you really need a phone call? You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna give you a text message. I'm gonna say, hey, this has been a great month, I've enjoyed our time together, dot dot dot, but one, two, three, four, five, whatever is not serving me. Typically, it's one or two things. I just feel like we're not aligned on work or, our lifestyles, or I kind of felt like this was really arrogant for you to say, or I will let them know. And then I'll say, it was so nice to meet you. Good luck with everything. Peace. If they respond back to me, I typically don't respond. Like it's a clean break. I've also done this with friends as well. In my life, I have intentionally dumped 3 friends. And it was because they showed signs of not being a good friend. They showed signs of not being the support that I need, whereas I feel like I was giving that to them and it wasn't reciprocated. Or like I overall didn't like their vibe. Maybe it was a new friendship and it just wasn't in line with me and my spirit. So you have to go. I've had one hiccup, one, when it comes to leaving a situation, and that was my ex-husband. I don't know what happened there. He slipped through the cracks. He slipped through the cracks because me before that and me after that somehow was really, really strong with the cutoff game. But with him, all the red flags just kept flying and I just stayed in it. And I do know that it was because I needed to become this version of me, because I wouldn't be her if he wasn't in there. But it's fine. Off topic. But all of the people and all of the men, all of the friendships, all of the situationships, they all have something in common, the ones that I cut off. And that is that whatever it was about them, whatever it was about how they related to me and who I was with them had to go. It was not in alignment with who I wanted to be. So I had to make that decision to go ahead and cut them off. And I'm talking about some very light stuff, but we're also talking very, very deep things. And though I said my ex husband slipped through the cracks, I mean, initially, it didn't take too long. I actually got married in December of 2022. I was divorced by October 2023. So, with that perspective, I still didn't play with him. He got a lot further than everyone else, but he also had to go. So, I say that to say, I'm not talking about just the surface level situationships or even friendships, because friendships can be pretty, pretty deep. I'm talking about the deeper relationships, people that you've been friends with for years, or a husband or someone you've been with for such a long time. You have history, you have a life that you've built together. I'm also talking about leaving those situations as well. But in those situations, there's so many reasons why it's easier to stay. The reason why I wanted to touch on, just the overall idea of leaving things that do not serve us, especially in season 1 of the podcast, is because who we keep around us and the company that we keep, the relationships that we are in, especially those romantic relationships, can completely halt our lives, our growth, our elevation. It can change the trajectory of everything. And as we are intentionally trying to step into the next season, into the best versions of ourselves, we can't have anything in the atmosphere, in our environment, in our lives that is keeping us from moving forward. And if it is keeping us from moving forward, we got to figure out a way to navigate it or get rid of it. This is one of the biggest ones that can be a deterrent for you to get to your best self. I was on a journey of becoming better, being intentional, solo dating, putting myself together, dressing better, looking nice, all of the things, right? I was on that journey. It was going great. I was looking good. I was feeling good in my body. I was that girl, until I moved here to Atlanta. And during the time that I was about to buy my home, I met a man through my realtor, not through my realtor, but she had a party or a little event and he was there. And we met and started moving and, talking constantly and all of the things. We ended up getting married 10 months later after meeting. It was very, very quick. If you watch my YouTube channel and my vlogs, you already know all this information, but we're going to talk about it because it's in context. Not only did I ignore a lot of red flags during the courting phase, that 10 months leading up to us actually tying the knot and getting married, but I did not vet this person the best way that I should have. Now, there's a lot of growth points to make here on my behalf as far as how far I had gone with my own growth journey and knowing who I was and all the things. That's another episode for a different day. However, I ignored so many things, so much so that I willingly allowed someone in my life who was the opposite of me in way too many ways, especially ways that are a benefit for me and that promote me becoming my best self. So I married someone who was opposite from me in ambition, opposite from me in stick to itiveness, in responsibility, in contributing, all of these areas. And being in that marriage made me lose myself to the point where I got to a point where I could not even work. I'm a vlogger. If you don't know that, I am a YouTuber and I'm a vlogger full time. And I'm in camera, I'm front facing, I'm talkative. It's my personality, it's the vibe, getting dressed at home, the lifestyle. That is what I do. I got to the point where I cannot work. I cannot be in front of the camera without tearing up. My personality was drained. I was depressed. I had anxiety for the very first time in my life. And I realized that the common denominator was this man that I married who does not promote and support me becoming a better person. Not only could I not become a better person with this man, but I also could not even be the woman that I had grown to be in that moment. I started to decrease, and lost myself to the point where if I had continued that relationship, the trajectory of my life would have changed. I believe that I would have lost my home. I believe I would have lost my sanity. I believe I would have lost my drive for wanting to look good, smell good, feel good in my own body. It drained me in so many ways. And I think my breaking point was getting to the point where I had nothing. I had lost everything as far as my spark, my liveliness, my personality, my ability to work. So now you affecting my pockets. You know what I'm saying? And that is not okay. And it took for me to get to rock bottom mentally and spiritually and physically and all of the leaves to say, I gotta go. I gotta go. And I left the marriage. Now, we're going to hit on this in so many episodes because there's just so much to say and so much to unpack in that whole situation. However, today, let's talk about why I even stayed long enough to get engaged to this man, to marry this man, and even be married for 10 months. Now, yeah, for a lot of people, that sounds really quick. And I get that, especially for those of us who have been in relationships and marriages for so long and been wanting to leave for years and decades. However, there are always reasons why we stay for however long we do. Please apply this not just to romantic relationships, but to friendships, to relationships within your family, to situationships. There are reasons why we do stay. And one of the biggest reasons is comfort. We are comfortable. We have found comfort in this person, in this situation, in this relationship, to the point where it feels unsafe if we were to make a move, if we were to pursue something else, if we were to actually speak up for the things that we know we need and deserve. It feels a lot more unsafe than having that person. I know in some cultures they say, a piece of man is better than no man. So you just settle for whatever it is that you can get. And though I thoroughly disagree with that, so many of us are programmed in that way. Especially because we are still very much raised by and influenced by our older generations who had to stay. They had to sit there. They had to take all of the mistreatment just to have a roof over their head, just to be able to provide for the family. And those women had no choice. But fortunately for us, we do. But we have to recognize that influence still being over us, still living and lurking in the back of our heads, that comfort is better than being uncomfortable, that a little bit of something is better than nothing. Those mindsets, very outdated mindsets, mind you, will keep you stuck and keep you stagnant and even pull you even further away from the progress that you've already made. There's also the fear of unknown. The fear of the unknown or the fear of the consequences if we were to get up and walk away from something. So, when it comes to the unknown, for me, I know that I was really in a push to get married for multiple reasons, but one of the biggest ones was it was an age thing. I was so wrapped into the timeline. I was 32 at the time, and it's like, wow, this man wants to marry me. This is it. And it's like, if this doesn't work out, I'm gonna be single again. I might get to 38, 39, 40, 43, and still be single. So the fear of the unknown of what can happen if you walk away, regardless of the pain and the suffering that you are going through in the meantime. And then it's also the fear of the consequences as well. What's going to happen if I walk away? Is that person going to be upset? Are they going to be mad at me? Am I going to be the bad guy when I know I'm a great person? I don't want to be the bad guy. And any other consequences as well. If there's children involved, that's a whole nother conversation. But that can definitely keep us in situations that do not serve us and that are not aligned with our best version. Another reason that we stay is complacency. Complacency and lack of exposure to more. I personally realized in hindsight that one of the reasons why I accepted what I accepted was because I lacked exposure to better situations, to better relationships, to better men. I didn't see a healthy marriage or healthy relationships or a man who did what he was supposed to do. I did not see that. So that was not my norm. So I continued to choose men who it was also not their norm. They were not great. If that's my norm, that's what I'm going to choose. And even if I say, I would love to be with someone who made more money than me. I would love to be with this type of generous man. I would love to be with a man who has this personality, traits or whatever. But if that's not my norm and I've never met or been with a man who is like that, someone who I see a romantic connection with, if I have never experienced that, sometimes that lack of exposure can make us feel very comfortable in those dysfunctional situations with the men who just ain't worth it. But if that's all you know, then your mind might not even think that it's possible for you to get more. And I'm speaking from experience. Before I got with my ex husband, who was under my station, they say don't date down. I married down 100%. But before that, it was one of my non negotiable in quotes, that I wanted to date someone or marry someone who made as much money as me or made more. And suddenly, when I met this man, it was fine. It was like, well, I've been there before. I've been in a situation where I didn't have much. I have, all the excuses. But in my mind, being a good person, like being an understanding person, being someone who is like, it's okay because I've been there. But that is a direct contradiction to what I had said I wanted. But because that was not my norm, not something I've ever experienced, and if we're being honest, it's more of a dream to me or more of a that would be nice type of idea, but not reality, made it okay, in quotes, to be with this type of man because that's what I'm used to. I'm not used to nobody with money. I barely am used to having some money. So it was a situation where I was comfortable being with someone who had less because I had never experienced anyone who had more. It was almost like a pipe dream to me internally and unintentionally and subconsciously. And I also realized that another reason that I stayed personally because I had a very low self-value. Very low self value and self esteem, whereas I thought that it was a lot higher. I thought it was a whole lot higher, but it absolutely was not. Because if it was higher, I would not have allowed certain things to transpire in my life. I would not have allowed that type of man and those type of qualities be the head of my life, of my household. I would have held myself at a higher standard, a higher value to know that I deserve a whole lot more than what I was being handed in that moment. And deep, 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 deep down, I don't think I believe that I deserved more than that. And that was something real deep we had to dig out with therapy and God, okay? Because that was a very deep feeling that I felt about myself, but I had to tackle it. I had to acknowledge it first, acknowledge it, and then say, okay, well, where do I go from here? Acknowledging is hard. Acknowledging hard things about ourselves that's not pretty, that's not great, is very difficult. But once we do, now we have a springboard for change and for an upward trajectory towards the right thing and towards that best version. So then the question is, now that I've stayed this long, and I understand why, to leave or not to leave. And that's when you really, really, really have to look at the truth and be brutally honest with yourself, with the situation, with that person, with what's going on. And the first question to ask is, does this relationship match the glow up and the elevation that I am trying to achieve? And even before we ask that, does it match who I am now? Forget where I'm going. Never forget where you're going, but you know what I mean. Forget where I'm going right now. Does this person align with who I am? But sometimes you do want to focus on, does it align with the future? Because maybe you got some work to do. Apparently, this version of you is not where she needs to be if she is accepting this type of treatment, if she's allowing herself to stay in relationships that don't serve her. Maybe we do need to focus on what would the more elevated version of me want. And does this person, whatever they're contributing, does it align with that version of myself? Another thing that I asked myself towards the end of my marriage was, am I fulfilled? Am I getting what I need? Because we all know, especially as women, we gonna make sure that that man gets what he needs. Even in friendships, we're gonna make sure that You get what you need. We are natural pourers. We pour into other people and we cultivate and we grow and we expand. And whatever is given to us, we make sure it is multiplied. But the question is, are we also being served? Are we also getting what we need? And if the answer is no, then you got to look at that and consider that when you're thinking about if you need to leave or not. Because we cannot pour from an empty cup. And if we are consistently drained all the time, constantly giving everything that we have to others and not pouring into our own cup, or the people that on the other end of that relationship is not pouring into us, you will get drained of everything. And that doesn't benefit the other person. That doesn't benefit you. It benefits no one in the situation. So asking myself, was I getting what I needed, was a big thing for me because I wasn't. I wasn't getting anything that I needed. I was doing all of the heavy lifting. So with that being said, his qualities matter. How he moves matter. How he runs the household matters. How he leads matters. Whether he's emotionally available or emotionally intelligent matters. Whether he is supportive, it will affect you as the woman. And for me, I was heavily, heavily, heavily affected. And because this person was not okay with their station in life, that affected me. And that birthed a non negotiable in me now is that I need to have support, preferably in all areas. But if we going to, be a team and I give support here and you give support there, it's got to be something. It cannot be nothing. Are your non negotiables honored in this relationship? Whether it is your girlfriend, whether it is your man, whether it's a situationship, which we shouldn't be spending too much time in those, but that's another podcast for a different day. But are your non negotiables being honored, or are they being ignored for the benefit of that person? Does it benefit them to not meet your non negotiable? So that means that you are drained and not getting what you need. But on the other hand, they're happy. They're excited. They got everything they need. They got all the support. They got all of the vibes, all of the everything. They're thriving while you are drowning. So that is also something to consider, because that's something that I considered because I was drowning. And seemingly, he was thriving. He was getting everything that he needed. All the bills were paid. Everything that he needed was there while I was drowning. And that is never okay. Because if we want to get to our best versions and intentionally move in that trajectory, some kind of progress got to be being made, and not backwards progress, because then we're delaying what God wants for us, because he wants the best for us and he wants us to be that best version of ourselves. And the truth of the matter is, God knows that everyone cannot go to the levels that he is taking us. He will either remove someone from your life, outside of your hands, you ain't got no control, or he will wait for you to remove them in order to bless you in the ways that you want to be blessed. This happened to me, and I I just felt like the timing was just not a coincidence. It had to be that God was waiting for someone to be removed from my life. So before my ex-husband, we were together for almost 4 years. It was about 3.5 years. When we were together, there were a lot of issues. I'm not going to go into them issues because they're irrelevant to the topic. However, we had issues, and for about the last year, I was trying to leave the situation. And while I was in the relationship, I was on YouTube. I was posting every week. I was very consistent, but I wasn't really making any money yet. I think YouTube, I had maybe 6,000 subscribers, something like that. So I wasn't making a whole lot of money. But I did start making a little bit of money on Instagram. I think I was at 50,000 followers. So I was starting to make maybe $500 here, $700 there. So for that last year, I was trying to leave the situation, and I eventually did leave after the third attempt. Because Chad, I tried to go, and that man was like, I can change everything about me. Actually, I am the man of your dreams. Let me show you. And he tried to. I gave him a couple chances to do that. And till his oldest time, he just went right back to being who he was because he got me back. And now there was no purpose of change. But another podcast for another day. Anyway, I finally left the relationship. It was December of 2019. He even double backed and proposed to me a week later, like tried to do the exact same thing, but that time I said absolutely not. I created the video that changed my life 2 months after he left. I literally got the idea for the series the week after he left. Created the first video 2 months after he left. 5 months after that, that video went crazy viral and I quit my job. And I have been a full-time influencer ever since. Suddenly, my salary was my monthly income. There's so much to say with that story. However, on the topic of leaving, I do believe that God was not going to bless me with that lifestyle, with the things I have been praying for my career until that man was gone. I don't believe that it was meant for him to be a part of this part of my life. The growth that I experienced there and the things I needed to learn, I believe, had been done and his purpose had been served. I was not blessed with the upward trajectory of growing, of elevating until he was gone. So sometimes God does wait until we move because we do have free will. God has given us free will. So until we actually put foot to ground and start making steps away from what does not serve us, you never know. You might not receive the blessings yet because that person is not supposed to walk with you. And then sometimes those people are holding you back, whether your man, your friends, a family member, they're holding you back with their mindsets, with jealousy, with resentment that you are where they wish they could be, or that you have ambitions that they wish that they could have and actually put foot to ground to achieve, which could very much be the reason why some of them are not allowed to go into the next season with you as you become your very best version, because the fruits of that, once you get to that place, they're not welcome to. They don't have a seat at the table, especially if what they're contributing is holding you back, is negative, is bringing vibes that is the opposite of what you are striving for. And every time I talk to like my girlfriends about leaving a situation or a friendship or a man or whatever, the question always comes up of, what are they going to say? What are they going to think about me? I don't want them to think I'm a bad person. I don't want to be creating the same type of pain that was done to me by someone else. It's just that notion of, I don't want to be seen as the villain. And while that is understandable, sips tea, literally and figuratively, it really comes down to you or them. That sounds very harsh, but it is the truth. It comes down to you or them. Unfortunately, we have to become the villain in someone else's story to become the hero in ours. There are people who are in relationship with you that are only in relationship with you because it benefits them. They're getting something out of it. They are taking advantage of your kindness and your givingness and your willingness to give everything that you have. But let you actually put your foot down and say, absolutely not, because this is only benefiting you and not benefiting me. You will be their bad guy. But are you the bad guy? You're not actually the bad guy. To them, you're the bad guy because now they are not getting the benefit. They are not benefiting from your suffering. They're not benefiting from you being overworked and exhausted and drained of anything that you might need for yourself. So beforehand, they're benefiting in your suffering, but now you're benefiting in their suffering. Which one you gonna choose? That's why I said it's comes down to you or them. When I left my marriage, it was obviously a very difficult decision to make. However, it came down to him or me. If I chose him, that meant that I would continue to suffer. I would continue to not get what I need. I probably would have lost my house within a year. I probably would have lost everything that I worked for, support online included. He would have been okay. He would have still had things that he needed. He would have still been in the marriage, which is what he wanted. He would have benefited from me not making that step for myself. So in that scenario, I chose him and he's good, but I'm suffering. In the other scenario, I'm free. I'm able to grow. I'm able to learn and become a better person based on that situation and learning from it and leaving it. So I'm better than when I came in. I'm able to thrive. I'm able to focus on myself. I'm able to show my daughter a beautiful example of leaving when things do not serve you. I'm thriving. He's upset. He's sad. He is down and out and not having a wife to wait on him hand and foot. He suffers. It's like I'm not the villain for standing up for myself and saying what I need is a priority. So much of a priority that I will walk away. That is not the definition of being a villain. That does not make you the leaver, the person who is walking away, the bad guy. We have to be okay being the villain in someone else's story in order to be the hero in our own. That's what it boils down to. So that means we have to also get comfortable being uncomfortable because it's uncomfortable feeling like you're the villain and feeling like you're the one who created this bad situation, or I'm a nice person, but now I'm not being nice, or I'm creating hurt for this person, just how this other person, this other relationship, this other friendship created hurt for me. We cannot hold that responsibility. We also have to realize we can't please everyone. In this world, everyone's not going to be pleased. Someone will be pleased and someone won't be pleased. And the only person that you have, that I have, that we all got is ourselves. Now we have the Lord. We have God and the Lord Jesus Christ. But what I'm saying is, as we move through this life, you got you. That's all you got. All you have is yourself. And you have to be willing to choose yourself, or no one else will choose you. Because if you don't choose yourself, to prioritize yourself, to get the things that you need, to have your standards, to have your boundaries, you are teaching people how to treat you. I had to realize that. I was teaching people how to treat me. I ain't worth nothing. I ain't got no standards. I ain't got no boundaries. You can just walk all over me. I'm going to do everything you need while you give me nothing. Period. That's the life we live in. That's what I was teaching people to do to me. And I was accepting of it. I wasn't doing anything about it. But once I started doing something about it, of course, it became a problem because now you're not getting what you need. But all I got is me. All I got is me. And you can call it selfish all you want, but I can't be a good mother, a good sister, friend, girlfriend, wife if I don't have what I need also. It is that serious. So there's definitely some things to consider when you are walking away. And y'all know I always give you some type of homework or something to write down, something tangible. So write these down. Number one, time is priceless. Do not waste it on things that do not serve you. I don't think we think about this enough. Time is the one thing that we cannot get back. Everything in our life revolves around time. When something's going to happen, when it's not going to happen, how long we got, how long I've been in this, how long it's going to take to get over it. Everything has to do with time. And that is not something that we want to waste. So when you're thinking about, should I leave this friendship? Should I leave this relationship? Should I leave this marriage? Also think about the timing, because tomorrow's not promised for any of us. And if you really want to get to the version of yourself that you are striving towards, to the promises that God has given you, let's think about the timing of that and think about the time you could be wasting while you are contemplating in your head if this is what you should and should not do. And another aspect of timing is that sometimes you have to just rip off the Band-Aid. A lot of times we linger, and lingering can turn from an hour to a day to a week to a month to 4 and 5 years to 50 years when we linger. Also, you're going to have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. That is just the nature of leaving what does not serve us. That doesn't even have to pertain to relationships. That can pertain to leaving a job, or doing something that is unknown. You got to get comfortable being uncomfortable. It is going to be what it is. You can't be happy, especially in hard situations and hard decisions. You're going to be uncomfortable, but it's only going to last just a moment, because I promise you the joy and the freedom and the release and the relief that you're going to get after the fact is going to heavily override the uncomfortableness that you're going to feel for just a moment. Also, remember that some people do not deserve an explanation. Now, I started off this this episode talking about how I would give my situationships, not even my man, but my situationships, I would give them a little bit of an explanation of what happened. Now, sometimes people deserve, or sometimes you want to explain. Sometimes it's a sign of maturity just to not ghost or to actually say, hey, this wasn't working for me. That way that person can learn from it or whatever the case. But everyone doesn't need that nor deserve that from you. If you want to make a clean break, especially if it's somebody you've just been talking to for a little minute, you know what I'm saying? They don't really need to know. Like, do we need to go into all of that? Because that also will open up the possibility for more conversation and more lingering and back and forth. And that's not what we want. And if you know you don't want to do the back and forth, maybe don't give an explanation. Some people deserve it, but some people don't. So take that into account when you are making your plans to bounce. And lastly, please make note that we have to stop equating meanness, quote unquote, with assertiveness. You can assert your needs and what you want without being considered mean. Now, to that person, maybe they will consider you to be mean, but that's a them problem. That's not a you problem. You are allowed to assert what you need, what you want at any given moment, and you are not the villain. You are not being mean. You are not being cruel to that person. You are simply saying no. Any issue with that has everything to do with that other person and nothing to do with you. As long as you stay level-headed, you stay mature, and you stay considerate as you explain what you need. And if that's not being met, the answer is no and goodbye. And that does not mean you're being mean or cruel to them. Get comfortable being that bad guy, sister. I hate that I have to say that, but it's true. You're not actually the bad guy, but you will be to them for a while. But get comfortable being the villain. But it does not mean that you're a cruel person for standing up for yourself and doing what you know you need to do for you. Because some people cannot go with you. Some people don't deserve to go with you. And some people God will not allow to go with you into the next season and as you become the very best version of yourself. And always remember that you are not intentionally trying to hurt others by doing what's best for you. I hope that you guys enjoyed this episode. Make sure that you follow the podcast on both Instagram and TikTok, and then subscribe on YouTube and on your podcast apps. Don't forget to leave a comment on YouTube and also a review on your podcast app, wherever you are listening from, because it will help other women to find the show and to understand what they're getting themselves into before they press play. Lastly, if you know of anyone at all who would benefit from this show, I would really appreciate if you would share this with them so that we can reach as many women as possible. Congratulations, sister. You are officially one step closer to becoming the best version of yourself. I'm gonna talk to you later. Bye.